Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Astrology Victoria. Today, with your host Tatiana, and also broadcasting for ANN Archetypal News Network. And I'm bringing you today this week's astrology from November 27th, Monday, all the way to December 4th. And let's see what's going on this week. I hope you're doing amazing. The energy seems to be uh, getting a little bit less crazy. So let's pull this up and see what's going on. Dun, dun, dun. Okay, so here we are. All right, so what things are in store for us this week? Well, there is definitely Neptune is going direct after a long, long time of retrograding in Pisces. So this is going to be an interesting shift. Um, we have certain aspects of Mercury being very, very prominent. So I think our main actors this week are Mercury, Venus, and Mars that are creating this tensions between them. So we will have a lot of activity in the mind, discussions, maybe disagreements, little things here and there to look at. So that is kind of the main things that we're going to be talking about. How these oppositions of Mars to Mercury and Venus create some kind of archetypal tension. So let's get into seeing what that means. You see, here they are. It's our little energy of dispute. Where does this come from? Okay. So you see, we have at the beginning of the week, we have the exact position or almost exact position of, so it's not exact quite, but very close, of Mars opposing um Mercury, and Mercury is still in conjunction with Venus. So we have talked about this conjunction of Mercury Venus as having a capacity for, having um beautiful, harmonious words, like being very conciliating. It's a good aspect for saying beautiful words, for um like poetry, for instance, is a very much a Venus Mercury thing, speaking the right things. Charm, grace and charm, the charmer, right? That's kind of part of that Venus Mercury aspect. And in Sagittarius, the thing is, like, Mercury in Sagittarius looks really far away, meaning the mind can be lost in big ideas or big dreams or big things, and not necessarily very practical or very focused, or very on task, especially having now Mars on the other side in Gemini, still being kind of scattered. Maybe there's a lot of information coming our way, and there is a possibility of having disagreements on, either there's things that we think in our mind that, and then we have certain ideas but we cannot properly implement them, or we can be butting heads with somebody, or being short with our words, not necessarily very graceful, even though the Mercury Venus suggests some kind of like grace. And um, with Mars, there could be conflicts as well, maybe conflicts in relationships, little bantering, blah, 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 the bickering, bickering, like this couple here. They're like maybe trying to figure something out, but it just doesn't work. So one person wants to do something, and the other one just doesn't agree. So this is kind of like that energy of disagreement, where either we are wanting something, but it's not exact, we don't know exactly how to get there, or yeah, that's how the energy presents itself. The other thing with that is, like, to remember that Venus in Sagittarius is not necessarily the most graceful place for Venus. It's very much freedom loving and not very organized, I would think. It's a little bit of a Yeah, it's like freedom loving Venus, meaning love is maybe not taking too seriously. We want to go places, we want to travel, we want to feel like not contained. So, this is all part of that energy of Venus in Sagittarius. So, for people that have precisely Sagittarius people or Gemini, or well, anybody in the mutable signs, so Virgo, Pisces, Gemini, Sagittarius, these aspects can be a little bit challenging for you this week. So just pay attention to not be too much short-tempered or in disagreement, or if there's too much information coming your way and you're not agreeing with something, not to push, not to push, not be pushy, because that's kind of something that could happen as well. That we're not very yeah, either or it's the opposite. Either we're completely people pleasing and trying to do the right thing, or we're very short, like we just have no time to, for like things that don't make sense for us. So and if there's too much information coming our way, it might be just like this kind of energy. So this is how I'm feeling a little bit, that we might be beginning the week with. So the antidote for this definitely is to take deep breaths before, getting a little bit short fused, with your words. Just, take it easy, don't let Mars get too much, even if it's triggered or angry, or too sharp or too direct, like, you can still use a little bit of, it's the midpoint between assertiveness with Mars and the charm and the ease and the grace of the Venus Mercury. So how can we be in the middle, be assertive and at the same time um, say things nicely, even though you know what you know and you know what you want. So that is a little bit the antidote to not be either on one side or the other side of this opposition. And I'm kind of rambling here, so let's let's move on with the other aspects that are kind of important this week. We do have a so November 30th on Wednesday. That is when then we have the exact opposition of Mars to Venus. And Venus is coming already a little bit further from Mercury, but it's still kind of within the same ideas. The other thing that's coming in, and this is very important to note, it's the square of Mercury to Neptune and Venus to Neptune. What happens here? You see, this is where the things that we think are a certain way might not. This is where we wear the rose-colored glasses, especially with Venus. I mean, first comes Mercury. So Mercury hits Neptune first. So there could be certain confusion. Remember with this aspect, like being there could be a proneness to being deceived or lied to, or even you might want to not be very clear with things. So beware of dishonesty, beware of not really being clear, because and Neptune also is in Pisces, so there could be a lack of clarity. And when things are not clear, nothing really gets done properly, or you don't pay attention to details. And then what happens is you end up doing a deal that later on you're like, oh, what happened? And with Venus in the mix, is be careful with charming people, thinking that you met Prince Charming and then you're just kissing a frog, right? And then you realize it's actually a frog when you open your eyes and you're like, oh my God, what happened? Right? So this is the time to be it's very important to be discerning this week, discerning of people, discerning of things, discerning of your own mind. And if if you don't have to use your mind for very focused action this week, then the beautiful thing about this aspect is that it can be used very beautifully for art, for poetry, for song. This is where we can channel beautiful visuals, that we can channel uh, uh, beautiful poetry or writing or journaling. This is an aspect that, in order to channel the energy into something productive, it could be something that's more of the fantasy realm than of the real realm, basically doing business and getting down with deals and money. And this is not the week to do that, because you could be even ending up with like the short end of the stick out of a deal of any kind. So and that goes also for relationships. Make sure the people you're around, especially if you meet somebody new, that it's not just all smoking mirrors, that it's actually, real. And if not, just take your time. Take your time to get to know somebody. Do not jump in too quickly, because what happens with these aspects is we get totally the rose colored glasses, and then the aftermath is, having to clean up the mess. So this is kind of important to note this week. A week for yeah, maybe a lot more of the artistic or the spiritual. That is another beautiful option for this energy, for channeling this energy, is to to be more in a state of let's say a happy inner state of communion with your own self and things you love to do. And meditation is also great at this time, because you can be more in tune. um I also would say beware of substances with these aspects. So if you're like, oh, I just want to smoke a little weed or whatever, do a journey with mushrooms or so, I think this is not the best time to do these things, just because you might already be a little bit out there and not clear. The thing with Mercury and Neptune is the mental fog. There's a possibility of having such a mental fog that it's difficult to focus the energy on anything. So for learning projects and things that require a lot of focus, I don't think this is necessarily the best. However, and there is a however, because Saturn is making a sextile to Mercury, it means that a part of our brain can still focus the energy and the mind into something that needs to have form. So for instance, if you want to, let's say you're doing a creative writing project, that sextile will help you channel all the fantastic things of the other realm, the realms of Pisces, the realms of Neptune, with the beautiful uh, freedom of the Venus and the grace of that Venus Mercury. And then with that sextile to Saturn, then we're able to actually sit down and write. So you see, all these energies help for these kinds of things. Not the best, definitely, for really focused projects, or even like completely dry projects. When I say dry, is, mechanical things where you have to be very specific, very like engineering things and stuff. This you might be a little bit like out in outer space. So maybe take it easy. I would say take it easy. This is not the time for that. It's for mega focus. And if you do want to mega focus, then that's great. Then just just do it. If you have to, then double check, triple check, in order not to make mistakes. um, this is kind of what it is, and we're still with a lot of Sagittarius energy in the air, so there is a certain lightness and optimism in the air still, like there's this sense that everything it could be much better and will be much better, and there's a time for big dreams. Remember, we're talking a little bit with this Jupiter Neptune earlier on, how it was about, dreaming big and having the big picture of your life, not necessarily the time to implement absolutely everything. However, as Neptune will start moving direct, the there might be also a shift between all your inner world and all that connection to spiritual and the awakening. And what awakening means, I'm just getting this, that awakening is something that you don't control. It's something that happens. It's not something you force, it's something that comes to you. So you could have epiphanies in dreams. You could have sudden like realizations even when you're working or doing something or talking to somebody, and suddenly boom, you have a big realization that it's not a small thing. It could be a very big thing about your life. And this is why this is a very big energy of awakening, especially with Jupiter there and with Neptune. There's this hopeful awakening that there's something bigger, brighter, better. This is how the energy reads, at least in the chart. So what I would love to know, oh, before I asked you what I love to know, we do have this trine still active of Saturn and Mars, which is really good to actually get things done. So you might as well be a little bit like up in the clouds, but with Saturn and Mars, there is the capacity to implement things like slow and steady, or at least that the thought process is the right thought process where you can rethink things, and with Mars retrograding, it's not about the big new things, it's about kind of finishing things that were left off as well, things you needed to do or accomplish before starting new projects. And in my own personal life, I'm going to give you the example. What is getting accomplished is a lot of organization. Like, there's things everywhere. We're doing literally the fall cleanup, where there's piles of things everywhere. The things that were never organized from, a few months back. Now it's the time to kind of do that and get things organized, but because they didn't get organized before. So I have found myself being very diligent with this energy, almost very disciplined with it, so that things can function better later on. And this is my own personal experience, and I'd like now to ask you, in your experience, how are you feeling this transits where their mind could be a little bit all over the place, literally, like tons of different projects here, there, information everywhere, not very, very clear of the direction you want to go. And yet, having something that when you focus, you can get it done, and it's like laser focus, and you just do it. You take this energy. So, how is that happening for you? Is it happening in any particular area of your life? And if so, like what is the your house where you have Aquarius? Because this is where this Saturn, which is kind of it's a very helpful Saturn. Saturn has a bad rep, and usually, especially when it has like difficult aspects, we think about Saturn as the party pooper, is hard. It's just almost depressing. But when Saturn is making good aspects, it's just we enjoy the work, we enjoy the discipline, because we know that whatever we're doing, as much as it might not be a lot of fun, it's creating something that is going to be long lasting and good. And later on, we will reap the rewards of having created those structures. So in your Aquarius house, what is Saturn asking of you, or what has Saturn been asking of you all this time as it is moving through Aquarius? What part of your life is asking for maturity and for uh, having to step up and have your own sense of self and authority? What is that house? And how have you been dealing with this? And these aspects, how are they playing out in your life? this Mars Saturn, are you being able to accomplish things because you're like, chugging away, but slow and steady? And what has given you also inspiration? The other thing is when we have a sextile of Saturn to Venus, there's also the capacity to have relationships that are more functional, and it's great for business partnerships because it's like all down to business. It's less fluffy, but it's helpful when you need to get things done, and if you're not caught in disagreements, it's great for making progress in things. So yeah, this is a little bit of the whole picture of this week. So let's recap very fast. Make sure to stay focused. Make sure to not fall for the first thing that comes your way. Be discerning, and also try not to lose your temper very fast. If you need to say something, take a deep breath, say it nicely, and be assertive, and that will grant you success this week. And use the positive energies of Saturn and those beautiful aspects to accomplish things slow and steady, and slowly build towards your goals. And also stay in tune and connected to a fundamental part of yourselves that is spiritual in nature, and you can do that through writing, through poetry, through images, through drawing, through journaling. Those are the little things I have for you today, and I'm signing off because the Mercury is already starting to wander like this in my brain. It's not the most linear thing I've ever done. So, thank you very much, and please feel free to like, subscribe, and share this video if you like it. And also check all the amazing videos on Archetypal News Network. It's amazing what's also posted there with all the fabulous astrologers that have lots of amazing content. So yes, this is this, and I wish you a very fabulous week. And I'll see you next Monday. Bye.